Most of us are facing some kind of health challenge, whether that's our physical health, emotional health, mental health, or even our spiritual health. We're feeling these challenges on such a broad level in our society today because we live in a world that is sick. That's the theme of Dr. Gabor Mate's book, The Myth of Normal: Trauma, Illness, and Healing in a Toxic Culture. So in this video today, I want to show you how wherever you are, you can start to climb out of a dark spot by learning how to regulate your nervous system and start to heal your life and your body. So let's get into it. I like to think about healing as this metaphorical journey through life that we're all taking. We're walking down the road, we're on our path, everything seems to be going okay, when we run into a traumatic event that knocks us off course and we end up in a dark hole. The traumatic event that we face can be different for everybody. What's traumatic to one person isn't going to necessarily be traumatic to somebody else. Trauma is defined by Dr. Gabor Mate as not what happens to us, but how our body reacts as a result of what happens to us. And our bodies are very smart. They want to be in balance and they want to be in wholeness and health. That's the natural equilibrium. But when a traumatic event happens, it could be the loss of a loved one, it could be the loss of a job, it could be a global thing, some terrible event that happens, or it could be something that's unique and personal to you. But regardless of what happens, a traumatic event is a wound to our nervous system. Our nervous system, when we're faced with too much stress or trauma, goes into a fight, flight, freeze response. And if we don't know how to work through our emotions, if we don't know how to get the help and the healing that we need, we can start to get stuck in that fight, flight, freeze response. And that is what I liken to getting knocked off your path and being stuck at the bottom of this deep, dark hole. When a traumatic event happens and we find ourselves knocked off course and laying face down at the bottom of this hole, we can start to feel depressed. We can start to feel like there's no way out of this. We can feel a loss of energy. We can get sick. And if we're not able to heal fast enough or figure out a way through it, then we can get stuck down there and we can start to experience chronic pains, chronic illnesses, chronic depression, and start to feel like there's no way out. But no matter where we are, no matter what we're facing, there is a way out. And I like to think of that as a ladder that comes down into the hole. We have to climb it rung by rung. This is exactly how I felt years ago when I lost my father-in-law, Paul, to death by suicide, and our family was definitely down at the bottom of a dark hole. I felt depressed. I felt disassociated. I had this terrible fight or flight response, and I was stuck in it, and I was stuck in it for years, not feeling safe in my own body. But what I learned through all this process is how to climb up out of that ladder. And we climb up, in my opinion, in 4 steps that I want to teach to you. Step 1 to climb up out of that ladder, I call regulate. This is regulating our nervous system. When the trauma happens and we find ourselves down in this deep, dark hole, our bodies are in that fight or flight response. And that means that we're facing constant stimulation and burnout. Our body is flooded because of this nervous system traumatic wound with hormones that keep us locked in this agitated state because we don't feel safe. These are things like norepinephrine and adrenaline. These are chemicals that are great to have in our bodies because when we were growing up as young human beings on the plains of the savannas hundreds of thousands of years ago, these fight or flight responses kept us safe from predators and real threats in our environment. If a cheetah was coming at you, you better hope that you're able to respond quickly so you can dodge the cheetah's attack and save your life. But today, there's not cheetahs attacking us, and our stresses are a lot harder to perceive, as actual dangers in our lives. But today we live in a state of constant agitation, and it's like there's cheetahs coming at us all the time that we can't see. We got to pay bills, we got to go to work, we have to live in all this technological, environmental stresses, and there's so many that we could talk about. So when the traumatic event happens, when that fight or flight response kicks up, we can't always chill out like we used to in the days of the savannas. So we get stuck down here. And to regulate our nervous systems, we have to learn how to calm ourselves down, relax, so that we can change our body from being in this fight or flight response to being in a rest digest response. And we have to have this base level of calmness within our own nervous system to give us an anchoring and a base so that we can start to work through some of those harder things that are required as we climb to the top of the ladder. After we've kind of got to a baseline of regulation within our nervous system, the second step then is to release. And in this release step, we have to go into our bodies, into our emotions, into our feelings, and we have to get out all of that bad, stuck, negative energy from that traumatic event that is holding us down. Because we don't want those emotions and those bad feelings to sit within us forever. They got to come up and out. The third step on climbing up that ladder, after we've regulated our nervous systems and we've released the bad emotions or the stuck energy from the traumatic event, we can now start to reclaim what was lost within us when that traumatic event happened. Because we were going down our life path, the trauma happened and we got knocked off, we can feel like there's all of this stuff that we didn't get to do that we would have done if the traumatic event had not happened. The fourth step, as we're climbing up the ladder, is to reintegrate. So we've calmed our nervous system, we've released the bad feelings, we've started to reclaim who we are, remembering our gifts, remembering our passions and what we're good at. And the fourth step is to reintegrate all of those things. So we have to think practically about the fact that all these negative experiences happened to us, we learned from them, and now we get to go forward in our lives and build the lives and the game plans that we want to have and live life on our own terms. We're survivors of trauma. We've healed. We've gotten stronger, gotten more empathetic. And how do we move forward with our lives, our work, our jobs, our careers, our relationships, and all of that? Now I want to talk about how if you or someone you love is feeling like you're stuck down in that hole and you want to take the first step to get out of it, what do? Well, we got to regulate our nervous systems, but how do you actually do that? One of the most effective and beneficial things that I did when I was stuck down at the bottom of that hole was that I utilized binaural beats. You may have heard of binaural beats before. They're becoming more popular. But what it is you wear headphones or earbuds, and one side is playing a frequency, let's say 100 hertz. The other side is playing a frequency just above, let's say 110 hertz. And when your brain hears these two slightly different tones or frequencies playing in your ear, the brain kind of gets tricked and it creates a third frequency kind of split down the middle. And this third frequency, if we use it the right way, has tremendously healing effects on our bodies because it can push us into a different brainwave state. When we're awake, we most often experience an alpha brainwave state. But when we use the binaural beats, it pushes us into a state that's very similar to the state of right before we fall asleep, known as the theta state. And the theta state is cool because it pushes the body naturally out of the fight or flight response into the rest and digest response. So if we're having a hard time regulating our nervous system, listening to these binaural beats for even just 15 minutes can reset us and help us to feel like we're more calm, more relaxed, and more easily able to tap into our own emotions. There's a ton of benefit just laying down, putting a mask over your eyes, and letting these beats push you into a better state of consciousness. But what I think is the most beneficial about this process is that it gives us an ability to calm down and tap into what is the true intuition of our body trying to say. When we have a traumatic experience, so many of our thoughts, feelings, emotions tend to get pushed down. But when we're in this theta state from the binaural beats, we can start to connect with imagery that we might see in our mind's eye, or connect more deeply with feelings that we have, or even have some repressed memories start to come to the surface. And I think this is great because it kind of builds a bridge between the first step of regulating and the second step of releasing. If these things are coming up for us, we can process them, we can integrate them in our minds, and we can start to move forward and start to heal. And in doing that, we teach our bodies that we're safe, we were in a hole, but we can start to get out of it, and we can start to feel okay again. This is how we avoid coming across all kinds of other negative things that we can experience when we're down in the bottom of the hole. So if we're able to relax, if we're able to start to feel some of these things, process some of these things, then we can avoid all the unhealthy ways that we mask pain, like addiction, like thrill seeking, or substance abuse. I mean, you name it. So I think that this binaural beats is a wonderful experience, and I want to give you a demonstration of it right now. So I'm just in my home studio here. I'm sitting on the ground, and I've got just a couple things to help me out. I've got a pillow. I've got a blanket. I have a sleep mask that I'm going to put over my eyes. And I have a pair of headphones that are going to play the beats for me. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to lie down, close my eyes, relax, and try to think about what is coming up for me and what am I feeling. And I'm going to play some binaural beats on this video right now, about 3 to 5 minutes worth. Please do not listen to this if you are driving or if you need to be in a conscious state, because it's going to start to change your brain waves. Please only do this if you can relax and if you can sit down somewhere that's safe and be intentional about what you're doing. All right, I look a little ridiculous, but here come the vibes. 3, 2, 1. Relax. I hope that was a nice experience for you. I definitely feel better than I did before I started. It's such a nice activity to take the edge off of a long day. And you can see from just this little segment that we had that if you incorporate this into your daily practice, you're going to learn more easily how to put your mind and put your body into that rest and digest state so you can start to relax your nervous system and really help the body heal and start to get better. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe, and consider sharing this with somebody who you think could use some chill, regulated vibes in their own life. Thank you.